I want to briefly touch on what we see as some of the new frontiers in brand lift. How can we advance how important and how really useful brand lift can be in audio ad campaigns? And the idea here, the first topic is holistic measurement. It's really bringing together all campaign elements for analysis. So let me dig in and explain a little bit more of what I mean here. So it's very common if you're running an audio ad campaign, you're actually running it across different publishers, networks, and platforms, right? So you're very rarely all in on just one podcast or one network or one streaming service. And often you'll get some research as part of this. Often that can be included as added value. You will get a brand list study from each publisher, right? But each publisher may be using a different research partner with different methodologies and possibly different surveys. And so that's represented by fruits here. You got bananas on the one side, you got the oranges on the other side. And ultimately, you've got a fruit basket, but it makes it hard when looking at all of these different results to compare apples to apples. And so what we're suggesting here is the frontier is for advertisers and agencies to look towards using the same measurement partner across the board, across podcasts and streaming, so that you can unify your KPIs, unify the surveys, unify the methodology to make sure you're doing an apples to apples comparison. But it's not just about being able to compare publishers, because there's deeper insights that you can get. So let's see what we could do for Chaco Plus. Recall again that the brand has been targeting fitness conscious women and is now expanding to men, right? And before we showed you the awareness lift, but we also found that 25% lift in consideration with those male listeners, right? That 25% more of the listeners who heard the ad said they would consider the brand compared to those who didn't. But actually, these male listeners are just a small component of the entire buy. Chaco Plus actually ran ads on 3 different networks: a sports network, which is majority men, a wellness network, which is majority women listeners, and a pop culture network, which is a balanced sort of gender audience. And when they looked at these consideration numbers, in fact, they found that the sports network led at number 1, the pop culture network came in as number 2, and the wellness network came in as number 3. Now, you might take a step back and say, well, apples to apples, if the sports network performed best, maybe that's just where we should put our investment. We should double down there. We'll keep the pop culture network in the mix, but maybe we should reduce our investment, or maybe we shouldn't be investing in the wellness network. But the story might not be as simple as that. So they looked at the messaging of the ad. Fuel for your active lifestyle. Recall, this was a new message for this campaign. And they found that this really resonated with men, but it just didn't really resonate with women. And that was across the entire campaign, across every single placement. And so what this starts to indicate is maybe it isn't really about whether or not a network worked, but whether or not the messaging worked for different audiences. So what it suggests to Chaco Plus is, as they continue to advertise, they should optimize and start to use different messaging, perhaps for different audiences. And that allows them to both grow and maximize without leaving behind the reach, without counting out an audience. This is the sort of thing that a holistic approach to measurement allows you to do. Holistic analysis shows that, right? It's not as simple as one network performing better. We see that different audiences respond to different messages.